Maitri does not endorse any businesses, including but not limited to legal attorneys, financial advisors, and tax consultants that may be advertised before or after the show. Listeners are advised to use their own discretion.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Maitri show Between Friends. In this show, we will be talking about different issues related to intimate partner violence, family violence and abuse, gender-based violence, and power dynamics in relationships. The goal of our show is to engage our community members in addressing and challenging those harmful social and cultural conditions, norms that make intimate partner violence, family violence and abuse, and other gender-based violence acceptable. We believe our show Between Friends will mobilize our community in ending victim blaming and preventing violence and abuse in partner and familial relationships. In each episode, we will be providing insights and resources that will not only help victims and survivors, but also educate our community members about these issues. These resources and that are available in the community so that they can help someone in need. Tune in every Saturday from 3 to 4 p.m. on Radio Zindagi to listen to the Maitri show Between Friends. You can also find all episodes of Maitri's Between Friends on our website, Maitri Bay Area Facebook page, and on SoundCloud. Don't miss our show. You can email your suggestions and feedback to us at maitri@maitri.org. MAITRI. Together, we can end domestic violence, intimate partner violence, and gender-based violence. At today's episode, I am your host Nandini Ray, and I'll be talking to Dr. Zakia Afrin. Zakia is an advocate for immigrant women of color who suffer abuse. She manages Maitri's helpline, peer counseling, immigration assistance, and legal advocacy programs. She is a senior fellow and adjunct professor of international law at Golden Gate University in San Francisco. An enthusiast of arts and culture, Zakia founded Aditya, a platform to showcase societal issues through Bangla poems, songs, and literature in multiple formats. Welcome, Zakia. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Nandini.
I'm so happy that we are doing this show on legal issues because I understand that this can be a very complicated issue when people are going through domestic violence, intimate partner violence, and especially if they are immigrants and when they are here 1,000 miles away from their family members, their friends, and they go through this kind of issues, then they feel like, oh my God, what do I do now? I don't know anything about this system, about this country. It is possible that they don't know anything. And I'm glad that we are doing this show to give them some resources, some information, so that it can help if they or their loved ones are going through this kind of, unfortunate situation. For the listeners who have just tuned in, you are listening to the Maitri show Between Friends. And at this show, we will be discussing legal issues that survivors of domestic violence, especially survivors from marginalized communities, face. When someone is going through familial violence, partner violence, and abuse, seeking out legal help or understanding even legal system can be very difficult. Prolonged difficult legal battles can turn into an abuse of their own. So getting right attorneys, having right kind of legal guidance, accurate understanding of individuals' rights and options can have a huge impact on each case. So in this episode, we want to focus on legal matters, information, and resources that can help in reducing the occurrence of domestic violence or the repetition of the abuse or violent incident. So we have here with us Zakia, and I'm glad that we will be discussing legal issues, Maitri's legal program, how Maitri is helping our community and community members. And I'm sure, Zakia, you will share some tips for community members, how they can support survivors of domestic violence, navigating the, very complex court system. So let's talk about, your journey. How long have you been with Maitri? you tell us anything you want to share about your journey with Maitri.
Thank you, Nandini. My journey with Maitri is almost as long as Maitri's legal program. I first joined Maitri in 2006 as a helpline advocate for a few months, and that's when we actually launched our legal program. I joined the legal program as a full-time employee in 2008, and since then I have been with Maitri in different roles.
Probably our listeners would like to hear that what is legal advocacy and how does Maitri support individuals seeking legal help?
So first, I want to start from a few numbers. This year, from January to November, we so far helped 292 individuals at our legal advocacy program. Now, the legal advocacy program has three different hats. One is direct legal services. One is immigration assistance, and then we also have policy advocacy. Now, people who reach out to us, they actually reach out for many different reasons. It could be something as simple as, where can I file my case? Or, this is happening with me. What are my options? And then as complex as, I have lost custody of my children. I'm in the system of the Department of Family of Children Services, going through their complexities, and how can Maitri help? So it's many, many layers of legal needs that people can have, and they can reach out to Maitri. Now, when we started out, we were mostly providing referrals to attorneys, court accompaniments to different appointments, and of course, being a support person in general, providing emotional support. Even though the legal program talks about legal issues, we are at the very basic level domestic violence advocate. So being a supportive person is one of the main roles that we do at Maitri. Now, after so many years, the legal program today can provide many other additional services. We can help people in-house with their document preparation. We can help people in-house with some of the attorneys that are working very closely with us. We can take on, lot of complex situations and try to be with our clients throughout the process that we were not able to do before. You can say whatever the need is, either we can help them or we can find them some resources that they can get help with.
When you talked about court accompaniment, what do you mean by that? How do you help people or our clients, survivors of domestic violence, with court accompaniment?
So, court accompaniments basically mean when someone files any case in a superior court for their family law case, they will have to go before the judge, and sometimes they will have to present whatever evidence they have. Sometimes they will have to just show up so that the case can be scheduled. So going to courthouse can feel intimidating because there is a security check post, there is police standing at the entrance of the courthouse, and the sheer feeling that you are standing before this authority who has such enormous power over your private life. So I think that can be pretty intimidating, overwhelming for a lot of our clients. Also because many new immigrants don't have any family members to support them through this process, and they may not want to reach out to friends in the fear that friends will know too much about their private lives that they don't feel comfortable sharing. So that's where we come in. We have dedicated volunteers and staff members who can sit with a survivor that's going through the court process throughout when the court is happening, and they can also take notes because people are overwhelmed with emotions or just stressed out. They're probably not even listening carefully what is happening in the room, what the judge is saying. So a support person, together with providing emotional support, can also, after the court hearing is over, can explain to the client what just happened and what would be the next steps. This is just a little bit of more help that we are able to provide.
Thank you for sharing what is court accompaniment. For the listeners who have just tuned in, You are listening to the Maitri show Between Friends, and at this show, we are discussing legal issues that survivors of domestic violence, especially survivors from marginalized communities, face. I'm discussing this issue with Dr. Zakia Afrin. Zakia is the manager of client advocacy, helpline, peer counseling, and legal assistance at Maitri. So let's take a break now.
अगर आप या कोई और जिसे आप जानते हैं जो घरेलू और डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस से गुजर रहे हैं, कृपया मैत्री से संपर्क करें। मैत्री की सेवाएं बिल्कुल मुफ्त और विश्वसनीय हैं। हमारी सेवाएं हिंदी, पंजाबी, मराठी, गुजराती और अन्य दक्षिण एशियाई भाषाओं में उपलब्ध हैं। You can call us Monday to Friday 9 to 3 p.m. on 188-862-4874. For after hours, leave voicemail in your language. You can also email us at maitri, maitri@maitri.org.
Welcome back, listeners, to our show Between Friends. And at this show, at this episode, we are talking about legal issues with Dr. Zakia Afrin. So, Zakia, what brings client to Maitri? What do you think? Why does an individual reach out to Maitri? What do you think?
So in California, we are actually very fortunate because there are a lot of services available for survivors of domestic violence, human trafficking, and all types of injustice that happens. Now, in that category, Maitri is actually a very unique service provider because we are in the Bay Area, the only culturally responsive organization providing services to South Asian immigrants, mostly. And then, of course, our services are open for anybody, but we specialize in working with South Asian survivors. Also, our staff and volunteers speak a lot of languages in-house. Now, we know that language access is the law, so any organization will be asked to provide the language that a survivor calls to and wants to speak in. But it's really an added benefit that Maitri has this support available almost any time when somebody calls. For example, our helpline can be answered in Telugu, Tamil, Kannada, Bengali, Hindi, Marathi, and Punjabi. So I think that is definitely something that sets us apart from other organizations. The cultural responsive part, I want to say a little more. It's not just the food people eat, the clothes people wear. That's the very popular definition of culture, right? But it's also the belief system and the experiences that people have come from. Understanding those very detailed nuances of people's lives and how someone would respond to domestic violence happening, how one person may interact with the justice systems in general. Let's say police, for example, how a survivor will interact with the criminal justice system most of the times depend on their experiences in their home countries. Now, all of these cultural challenges and habits, experiences, we have some experience with. And I think that is one of the reasons that many survivors from the South Asian community first think of Maitri. And this is not just unique to the community members. This is actually recognized by most of the county services because we get people calling us who received our number from a judge, from an attorney, from the police, from different justice systems, from the Department of Family and Children Services, previously known as CPS. So, especially in Santa Clara County, there is a name. If an agency or the justice system receives any survivor, provides service to a survivor, and that survivor has either a language need or a very cultural specific need that they must be addressed, more often than not, will be sending to Maitri.
You know, this is, I would like to add here that this is the reason I think Maitri was formed. There was a need in the community for a place where South Asian people who are going through domestic violence, family violence, they could call in so that they can talk to someone in their own languages, and if they know that someone is picking up phone and that person will understand my language, my cultural upbringing, my cultural conditioning, and it will be easier for me to talk to that person about my abuse. From that understanding, Maitri was formed almost 29 years back in 1991 as a bridge between mainstream agencies that were there to provide help services for domestic violence survivors and South Asian community. For our listeners, I would like to add that if anyone is suffering from domestic violence and want to reach out to Maitri to find out about their options, their rights, the services we provide, they can speak in South Asian languages. Maitri provides language access to South Asian victims and survivors. Maitri staff and volunteers speak different South Asian languages. Collectively, we speak Bengali, Gujarati, Hindi, Malayalam, Marathi, Marwari, Punjabi, Tamil, Telugu, and Urdu, amongst others. You can call Maitri if you want to discuss your case with us. You can call Maitri helpline at 1-888-8-MAITRI, MAITRI, on a weekday anytime between 9 to 3 p.m. and other times, and on weekends. Please leave your voice message with a safe phone number and a time so that we can call you back. Zakia, you manage Maitri Helpline Program, Maitri Legal Advocacy Program, and you and your team are helping a lot people who are going through domestic violence. And when you are helping them, what kind of unique challenges you see that South Asian survivors they're facing in interacting with court system? For example, can court system be complex for monolingual survivors? And if that is the case, then how does Maitri help monolingual survivors? Anything you want to talk about, challenges, case you want to discuss, we are here to listen.
So before talking about the monolingual survivors who have their own set of challenges, I just wanted to touch on few other things. Now, one of the things is when somebody immigrate to a new country, and many of our callers are actually new immigrants, and that may mean that they don't have a support system. They may not know anybody to reach out when they need help. That may also mean that they don't have any information about where they can get help, whether they are eligible to get help. One of the tools that abusers use is to tell the person in their control that nobody will help you because you are an immigrant, you don't have the right kind of visa, you are not a citizen here, so nobody is coming to help you. So that kind of misinformation is definitely a big challenge and a barrier for anyone to reach out for help. Then take the fact that it's a very different legal system. In many parts of South Asia, getting a divorce or a legal separation is a very, very difficult job. You have to have one or more qualifying reasons to actually separate a family. The reason being that the state and the community and larger extended family takes a lot of interest in a marriage union, right? It's not just two people getting married. It's almost like two families coming together, two communities coming together. So the state is also actively involved in keeping the status quo, that families are not broken down. But here, let's look at California. It's a no-fault divorce state, meaning one person just doesn't want to stay with the other partner and they have a right to get a divorce. And that's actually true for most of the states in the United States right now. And that is a huge difference from where the immigrants of South Asia are coming from. And that can be a traumatic event for many itself. The act that someone can get a divorce without specifying a reason why this marriage is not working, that can throw a lot of people off.
I want to add here, I know someone, country that person is coming from, in that country is no-fault divorce. So didn't know anything about it. And she thought that if I don't answer, if I don't do anything, then probably I will not get divorced. So this kind of understanding can be very problematic, can be very dangerous, right? So when people don't understand the legal issues, they don't have legal information. Example, that this divorce, like if I don't know that is a no fault divorce is happening in every state, or even in California, then I may not answer, I may not do anything, and I may think that, oh, everything will be fine. So how do you think that people should know about this thing, and how can they know about this thing?
I think, Nandini, there is no, magic pill to know all of these things. When someone chooses to immigrate to a different country, it's almost signing on to the laws. Of course, you have to abide by the laws of that country where you're going. And another point I want to mention, that in South Asia, and I can talk for Bangladesh for sure, where I am from, religion plays a role in family law systems, right? How divorce is happening, how inheritance will happen. In all of these South Asian countries, religion is very much present when you are talking about a family separation, a child custody, and inheritance, but it's very different here. It's not a religion-based system. So that's why what people expect may happen, most of the times don't happen. So that really creates additional challenges for them. And if they are survivors of domestic violence, then it's an added trauma to the whole experience. Now, I can give another example of misinformation or just the different expectations that people have when they're coming from different countries. The police, right? In a lot of us, many of us actually feel that police is going to be an intermediary when two people are fighting, right? And be it a domestic dispute, be it something on the street. But here, police is not playing that role in intermediary, right? The police is not going to come and threaten the other person to, hey, you better behave or else something will happen. Especially if we take the example of Santa Clara County, police will make an arrest when somebody calls for domestic abuse. That's in their protocol. And many people may call the police without knowing that. And when the arrest happens, it's really, really very, very challenging situation for them, because they didn't want to take that additional step without knowing what effect it may have in their marital status. If the other partner is going to be so mad that they are going to now go through the separation or divorce process, or is it going to have any effect on their immigration that's still in the process? They may not be a permanent resident or a citizen. So a lot of these kind of challenges we see that our survivors face, and that's why we at Maitri, we continuously build our capacity to address this. So we have our immigration program. That's where we, thought of having an immigration program that can tell people about their rights beforehand, what rights they have as just somebody living here, right? Anybody can call the police. You don't have to be a citizen. You don't have to have documentation to ask to be safe. However, the next steps, how much you want to get involved with the system, at that time you may want to consider what is your immigration. Is there any risk to you? And that's why we do a lot of know your rights kind of presentations. We do one-on-one sessions with our survivors, our clients, people who call us about their immigration status related questions. And we are getting better at facing all of these questions that are coming from our survivors.
What about the monolingual clients? How do you help them?
Yes, so let's get back to that. Now, currently, language access is the law. What I mean by that is, if someone is calling any agency that is getting any federal funding, they have to provide an interpreter in whatever language the caller is asking for. And there are so many language lines that actually provide that service. However, it's one thing to have a law and another thing to have the implementation. So if we take a court scenario, we see a lot of times that the court hearing will actually be rescheduled because an interpreter was not found. And it's really important to remember that in California, we have more than 250 different languages. And some languages are not as spoken as the others. So there are some languages which are spoken by a very small group of people. And it's very possible that there are no qualified or available interpreters when a person need. So that's kind of a continuous challenge. And how we get involved in this is we try to provide interpretations for our clients in unofficial settings, but we usually do not do court interpretations because it comes with a lot of other factors. But we actively try and find court interpreters when a client needs it for the court purposes and the court systems have nobody to help them. So at those times, we try to find out if there are other avenues for interpreters. And also we observe a court hearing, and sometimes we share our feedback with the systems that, hey, this interpretation was not really what we expected, what the client expected. She was not satisfied. And we try to bring in that conversation in whatever forum we are in, that language access needs to be addressed and people should be given the right to have an interpreter. And not just that, they need to be provided with adequate interpretation, not just kind of like a tick mark that yes, this person was provided interpretation.
I think court system here, they need continuous training how to be culturally responsive. Because if, for example, if someone needs a Hindi interpreter, a Hindi speaking interpreter, and getting a Gujarati speaking interpreter, that can put a huge burden on the case. That can be very problematic for that case. So, do you know any case where someone asked for some language and got something else?
I have many stories. I don't know how much time we have, but I'll give you one of the most common examples. India is a big country, right? And Hindi is very well spoken almost everywhere. So I was looking at the statistics that about 40% of Indian population can understand or converse in Hindi. Now, what about the other 60%? They may not actually be able to have a conversation in Hindi, may not even have the basic understanding of Hindi. However, if you just look at the court website and see the interpreters available for any of the other languages, let's say you put in looking for Gujarati, looking for Marathi, you will see that people have signed up for at least 4 or 5 languages. Now, one of the problems with this is that there are no certification process for certain languages. Now, certification is only available in very, very much spoken languages. For example, Vietnamese, Spanish, I believe Arabic, Punjabi, these are certified. But then the rest of them are registered. That means you go and you say that I am able to do interpretation in these languages, and you of course there are exams and you have to show the English fluency, but then what about the other language that you are putting in? So that fluency, there is no checks and balances, so that can become challenging. And we have had multiple situations when the interpreter has asked the person who requested interpreters that you must be understanding Hindi, let's just do it in Hindi, why bother doing the other language that you are asking for? And we had to bring it to the attention of the court specialist, and that system that was taken care of. So this is a challenge. I am not sure what would it take to address this, because like I said, there are so many languages, and probably having everything certified is a very time consuming and lot of funding related process. But there needs to be a middle way where this extreme doesn't happen, that people can just sign up for whatever they want to, and then there is no accountability for this kind of acts.
Wow. Lot of information. I'm sure that people who are listening this show, they will use this information and knowledge to help someone in need. For the listeners who have just tuned in, we are talking about legal issues, legal information, local legal information and resources with Zakia Afrin at our Maitri show, Between Friends. When someone is going through familial violence, partner violence, and seeking out legal help is not easy. And they go through, already they are going through trauma, and then finding right attorneys, having right kind of information is very important to help their case. So we are discussing this segment, legal issue in this segment, so that we can help someone in need.
अगर आप या कोई और जिसे आप जानते हैं जो घरेलू और डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस से गुजर रहे हैं, कृपया मैत्री से संपर्क करें। मैत्री की सेवाएं बिल्कुल मुफ्त और विश्वसनीय हैं। हमारी सेवाएं हिंदी, पंजाबी, मराठी, गुजराती और अन्य दक्षिण एशियाई भाषाओं में उपलब्ध हैं। You can call us Monday to Friday 9 to 3 p.m. on 188-862-4874. For after hours, leave voicemail in your language. You can also email us at maitri, maitri@maitri.org.
Welcome back, listeners, to our Maitri show Between Friends, and we are talking about legal issues today. So, Zakia, I have another question, and I think that is very important question for me, and I hope it will help many people out there. That how does immigration status affect an individual's access and interaction with courts?
So that's actually a very timely question, Nandini, because with the current administration, we are seeing a lot of new regulations coming up almost every month or every week. That's kind of sending, wave of fear among the immigrant communities, and people are rethinking what they should be doing, what they should not be doing, whether they should steer clear of police altogether, and all of that. So I will share what we usually tell our survivors when they're calling us about these issues, that if you want to be safe, the police has a duty to respond to every call without checking what is your immigration status, right? They are not supposed to be discriminating based on who is a citizen and who is an undocumented person, who is in the middle. If someone needs safety and it's a life-threatening situation happening, calling 911 is always the best option. And what happens after that, what steps to take afterwards, you can think about it when you are safe and you can think clearly. But if it is something is happening that's threatening your life, then that is not the moment to actually think about immigration or anything like that. Now, having said that, we do have a lot of clients that are in between situation. They may be on a dependent visa, so they don't know whether calling the police would eventually lead them to lose their status, either by divorce or by the person who is causing the situation leaving the country or however. But losing an immigration status in the US can mean many things for many people. They may have come from even unsafer situation, so they don't want to leave. They may feel that I have found some freedom here, so I don't want to leave this country. Some people may feel that children are US citizens, born here. So if one of the parents is an immigrant, they obviously don't want to leave their children here and go back to their country, no matter what the immigration status. So always, if there is a question, always consult an immigration attorney before thinking about what can be done, because there are the Violence Against Women's Act that came into being in the 1994, I believe. This is the 25th year that advocates around the US is celebrating. We are celebrating the 25th year of the Violence Against Women's Act. It has created few provisions for specifically for domestic violence victims to give them legal status in this country. However, it will not apply to every single person, right? Every person's situation is unique. So don't just go from a little bit of information and decide that, yes, I will do this, so it's safe for me to do this. No, I would say go for a consultation. There are a lot of free consultations available, lot of non-profit agencies in the Bay Area that can help somebody decide on their immigration safety plan. And as per our agency, when we start working with a survivor, we take their whole picture. What's happening in terms of their abusive situation, what's happening in their immigration situation, and what is happening with their finances, right? So we look at the whole picture and then we ask questions so that they can answer for themselves and decide what would be a right course of action for them to take to leave this abusive situation. So nowadays, the very important things to remember about immigration is that know your rights. Look up where there is always a free presentation happening in many parts of the Bay Area. Learn about your rights, what you can or cannot do, and how you can be safe, how to interact with police if you have any doubt about your immigration status, find out from an immigration attorney before you do anything.
Yeah. I think anyone can call Maitri if they want any information, legal information, and they can find out by talking to our staff member or volunteers about whatever question they have. But I would also want you to share that if you can share some free legal resources that are available in the community. Many people may not know about those resources, and would you please?
Yeah, sure. So all the court websites have very, very good information about how a divorce process happens, how a restraining order or a safety planning can be done. All of these Superior Courts of California website have this step by step, and nowadays you can access it in a couple of different languages as well. So that's a good place to go for your information. And then I must mention womenslaw.org. That's a non-profit organization that has they have all the different states of the United States, all the information about divorce, custody, and other related matters to domestic violence in very, very simple way. People can go there, understand for themselves. However, not to take it as advice. That's just the information. Same like what we do, because we don't have any in-house attorneys every day answering questions. When time comes for that, we connect people with the attorneys. But what we provide mostly is general information. If you are looking for advice, then both in Santa Clara and in Alameda County, and I'm sure in other counties as well, in the Bay Area, there are family justice centers where you can find all of these justice system partners at the same place. So you have an attorney talking about how to do restraining order, how to do your custody. You have an attorney who will talk to you about immigration options. You have a domestic violence advocate who can talk to you about how to support yourself. You may also be connected with mental health services, economic empowerment, and all of that. So the family justice centers are a very good place for anyone who just wants to get information, not sure about anything. Just go. These places are confidential, so none of them can share any information about you. So are we. Somebody calling us, we are also very strict about the confidentiality requirement. So that is another reason for you to look out for domestic violence organizations, because all of us are bound by confidentiality from the government regulations. So we do not share any of your personal information with anybody, even when your family members are thinking, okay, maybe she's calling or he's calling this organization, let me find out. It cannot happen. So just trust, go to family justice centers, go to any of the domestic violence agencies that are providing services in your area, and find out more about where you can get free or low-cost services. I will also mention that there are a lot of free and low-cost services for immigration assistance as well. The USCIS website has a list by cities where you can find free or low-cost immigration services assistance, and also in a lot of non-profits in general in all of the cities have free Know Your Rights presentation, free citizenship clinics happening, free walk-in services where you can just go and ask them about your questions.
If you are driving and couldn't take down all the information Zakia just shared, then you can do one thing. Please remember Family Justice Center in Santa Clara County and in Alameda County. You can Google search about them to get their number, or you can call Maitri Helpline if you need any legal information. And if you have any legal question, our number is 1-888-8-MAITRI. MAITRI, or you can go to our website www.maitri.org. Zakia, you raised a couple of good questions and good, thoughts in my mind, that when you were sharing this information, how to get help, how to find a good attorney. So it is not easy to find an experienced, responsible, and compassionate attorney, trustworthy attorney. And can you give community members some tips, some suggestion how to find a trustworthy attorney?
So, Nandini, I think this is one area that people are not very happy with. A lot of the people we talk to will have one or the other thing to say about their attorneys, but nobody can actually guarantee that how you can find a good attorney. People have to be really, really very careful when they start working with one. So I will share what we tell our clients when they are trying to hire an attorney. We say that you should at least talk to 2 or 3 before you decide on some person. And you need to know that an attorney must be respectful to you, no matter how knowledgeable or how many experienced years they have in their resume. An attorney has to be respectful to the client. So that's a very important thing to remember. We hear some clients will say, oh, my attorney was almost yelling at me and telling me you don't understand this, you don't understand that. No, if somebody is behaving like that, you do not need to work with that person. So you see in the interaction whether the attorney is being respectful to you, and keeping in mind that this is your case, this is your life, so you should be making the decisions and not the other way around. Yes, the attorney may feel that what you are deciding is not really going to happen, and they can feel free to share that opinion with you that I'm sorry, this is not going to happen what you're asking for, or this is not a good idea, or it's not in your best interest, whatever that may be. But the final decision is yours. So you can tell them and, hear from them what is their legal opinion. Legally, if it is not possible, then your opinion wouldn't really matter. But if you have decided on something which is not a legal matter, but your preference is your preference, right? So just kind of understanding. But I will also tell what we also tell our clients, that do not argue the law with a lawyer, right? Sometimes people will read something and they feel they actually know when they actually may not know. They may not know the context. They may not know that will not apply in their situation. So you have to be able to trust your attorney. Once you feel that you're not able to trust your attorney, every time attorney is saying something and you have to go behind that person's back and ask around, that's not a good relationship. That is not going to work, and that will not really get anything that in your best interest, right? So working with your attorney, I think first is the relationship has to be mutually respectful, and the decision, understanding that the decision the client needs to make, the factual decision and the legal points have to come from the attorney, whether it's possible or not. And understanding that this is not a non-profit. Most attorneys will charge you, and in the agreement that when you sign with your attorney, just read it thoroughly and understand that every call may be charged, and that's okay, and every email may be charged, right? So attorneys have a very high legal and ethical responsibility. They will lose their license if they go outside of their ethics regulations. So do not mistrust an attorney just because you feel that they're charging you more. Go through the bill, go through the agreement and see what is happening. There are always avenues to take your dispute and conflict resolution. That is also included in the attorney agreement. And many times what we see is that when we are in a rush to hire an attorney to go to court, we will agree to almost everything. Even a lot of people don't even read their own agreement. And a good attorney never really promises any outcome because you don't know what the other party has. So what they can promise you is that they will try their best to get what is in your best interest. That is all. If somebody is promising you the moon and the sun, then that is not a good attorney.
Yes. And sometimes people, when they're traumatized, they may not pay attention that if whatever the contract you are talking about, and they may call attorney for a simple things to understand, or for a simple thing to understand, or may email attorney without knowing that they will be charged, right? So that is very important for them to go through the contract, go through the understanding, the best understanding about the working with the situation with the attorney. So we are almost out of time, and I really don't want to end this discussion. But before we wrap up our show, Zakia, I really want you to talk about couple of red flags that people can see when they in their relationship, and they can understand if they are going through any abuse or violence in their relationship.
Yeah, so, we recognize that when somebody is calling Maitri, that call comes after a long struggle with that person and her inner self, right? Because nobody wants to call and chat about their private lives. We recognize that when someone is calling, they have reached that point that they cannot solve this issue themselves, or it's just going out of hand. Now, I feel that in the community, and also when we talk among our staff members at different times, we see that there, many of these things can be prevented. Things that actually bring out the abusive characteristics of both of these parties, right? Both people cannot stay in a healthy relationship. Now, you mentioned red flags, so I'll just mention 3 things you said. One of the things is when somebody is in a relationship, or when someone is trying to get into a matrimonial bond, just understanding who is the partner, right? How is that partner? If it is, I'm talking about a woman, because 85% of domestic violence survivors are women. So that I'm coming from that point. And so when people are getting married, they need to see how the partners are talking about women in general. If the person you are going to marry is very fine with you, respectful, loves you, showers you with gifts, but whenever that person is making a comment about another woman, it's not respectful. It's something derogatory about it, right? That should be a red flag, because in general, in that situation, there can be a gender insensitivity in that person, that not respecting women for their roles, or just in general not respecting women. That is a big red flag for abusive relationships. And then number 2, I will say, if you are getting into a relationship or going to marry somebody, find out about their previous relationship. Has there been a previous marriage? Just ask outright, why did it not work? How did it end? Did it end in good terms, or was there any kind of abusive relationship? If you, for any reason, feel that the other party is trying to hide something, in the United States, divorces actually, and family law matters are public records, right? So if somebody has a divorce and you actually suspect that the person is not telling you the truth, you can find out if that person has had any divorce. There are avenues to do that. Number 3, what I will say, lot of websites, right? Wedding, matrimonial ads, and all of this, people that want to get married through the websites, getting to know each other, even the families and all of it. How much actually you know about this person? We have seen many of the cases coming out of this kind of website-based relationship, while parties are not really going deep to learn about each other, where it's basically becoming a very on-the-top type of relationship. So just understanding the person before getting into marriage and talking about issues that matter. What will happen after marriage? Is this going to be a joint family situation, or are they going to be living on their own? What does the other partner feel about having children? What does the other partner feel about working? A working parent, or both parties are working? How do people feel about that, right? The girl who is getting married, is she going to continue her work or continue her studies? These are very, very important things. And many times in the rush and the glamour of wedding, we forget about these important issues. We don't talk about it. And when it's all done, then these are the issues that people actually get into arguments about, and that can lead to a very abusive situation. So I would say that, just be mindful getting into a relationship and try your best. It's not always foolproof. You can pretend you're only 50%, right? In a marriage, you are the 50%. The other 50% is not in your control. But what you can control is how you will allow that other 50% to affect your life in a good way or in a negative way.
Yeah, and violence or abuse starts from power and control. it is important to look out, watch out that if that person is trying to control you, trying